Earlier this month, on November 11th, 2006 to be exact, the world was introduced to the wonder that was the PlayStation 3. Marking Sony's first entrance into the HD era of consoles, it had given its competitor, Microsoft, a full year's head start. But this agonising wait for PlayStation fans would later turn out to be worth it, despite the console taking a few years to fully hit its stride. And what a stride it was once the PS3 got there. Hi everyone, it's Aaron from Push Square here, and in today's video, to commemorate 15 years since its launch, we'll be running through the top 15 best PlayStation 3 games ever released. God help the person that has to do this when the console turns 100. Such a task was too monumental for just one person, however, so instead we put it to you, the Push Square readership, to vote on your favourite titles. That's right, you've only got yourselves to blame for this finalised ranking. Saying that, thank you so much to the lovely Robert RAMSEY for originally writing this feature before it was adapted into video by me. Anyway, without further ado, let's look at the 15 best PlayStation 3 games ever, as voted for by you. Ratchet & Clank put in a solid shift on PS3, with multiple games garnering high praise, but Ratchet & Clank A Crack in Time is considered by many to be the generational high point. Introducing a load of new gameplay mechanics, including the ability to fly Ratchet's ship between planets, and putting a strong emphasis on a wisecracking story, this was the quality watermark for Insomniac's series going forward. If you could get beyond its infamous PlayStation 3 install times, Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots almost immediately felt like Hideo Kojima's most ambitious project. Some would argue that Old Snake's dramatic and often completely ridiculous mission is more movie than game, but there's simply no denying how memorable it all was. The optical camo, the absurd boss fights, the even more absurd cutscenes featuring Raiden, Vamp, and just about everyone else. Stuffed with fan service and countless references to what had come before, Metal Gear Solid 4 was a defining PlayStation 3 title. A hefty package that includes the original Ratchet & Clank PlayStation 2 trilogy remastered for PS3, the simply titled Ratchet & Clank Collection was a surefire hit with fans. With crazy intergalactic adventures spread across 3 surprisingly distinct games, this was a great way for players to catch up with the wisecracking duo ahead of their various PlayStation 3 escapades. After the colossal success of Uncharted 2, the pressure was on Naughty Dog to deliver another absolutely stunning adventure, and for the most part, the studio delivered. It may not quite be as fondly remembered as its predecessor, but Uncharted 3 Drake's Deception is still stuffed with incredible set pieces and brilliant character moments. While its story does feel a little slapdash at times, there's a barnstorming momentum to Uncharted 3 that's hard to top, and it all starts with that superb bar fight. BIOSHOCK is regarded by some as one of the greatest games ever made, and it's certainly hard to argue with the impact that it's had on this industry ever since. One of gaming's most memorable settings hosts an engrossing adventure, topped off with tense Big Daddy encounters and unique gameplay mechanics. It's really the storytelling that solidified BIOSHOCK as a modern classic though, boasting twists and turns that are still referenced to this day. Dead Space was a big deal when it released in 2008, but it was only in the following years that its expertly crafted take on sci-fi horror would be given the credit that it deserved. Now counted among the best horror games ever made, Dead Space is still dripping with atmosphere. The shadowed corridors of the Ishimura hide horrific creatures that must be dispatched with strategy, namely lopping off their limbs with a laser cutter. All in all, the game holds a terrifying magic that the series has never quite managed to capture ever since. Given its ongoing popularity, it's so easy to forget that Grand Theft Auto 5 was originally a PlayStation 3 title. A PlayStation 3 title that had to top the bombast of San Andreas as well as the gritty storytelling of GTA 4. Rockstar's ambition was clear from the start, with GTA 5 boasting 3 different protagonists and the most detailed open world that the developer had ever made. The story does stutter in places, and a lot of the writing hasn't quite stood the test of time, but there's simply no denying the confidence and swagger of this stellar sandbox. God of War 3 felt like the title that Sony Santa Monica had always wanted to make, but couldn't because of hardware limitations. It takes everything that players loved about the first 2 games and cranks it all up to 11. Massive boss battles steal the show, jaw-dropping at the time and still showstoppers now, while creative level design brings a real momentum to Kratos' blood-soaked adventure. Brilliant moments of brutality punctuate what is easily one of the PlayStation 3's finest. A collection of Valve's greatest hits, the Orange Box arrived on PS3 a couple of months after its Xbox and PC release. In terms of pure value for money, this package could do no wrong, bundling Half-Life 2 with Portal and Team Fortress 2, otherwise known as 3 of the era's most critically acclaimed games. Whether you enjoyed the timeless design of Half-Life, the cleverness of Portal, or the charm of Team Fortress, the Orange Box on PlayStation 3 was an instant hit. Metal Gear Solid HD Collection has to be one of the greatest video game compilations ever, right? Cramming Metal Gear Solid 2, 3 and Peace Walker into one absolutely stacked package, it was a deserved celebration of 3 games that many would consider all-time classics. Of course, Peace Walker was the icing on the cake, a superb PSP title that was playable on home consoles in glorious HD for the very first time. Rockstar's developed plenty of classics in its time, but Red Dead Redemption is one of the company's crown jewels. A gritty western epic, ex-outlaw John Marston is tasked with hunting down his old comrades for the state. A dusty open world oozes atmosphere, while incredibly punchy gunplay underlines a masterful campaign. And all of this is topped off by story moments that will be remembered for generations to come. When people think of puzzle games, there's a good chance that their minds immediately jump to Portal, and Portal 2 is pretty much a perfection of the formula. A witty, charming puzzler that never outstays its welcome, carried by expertly paced conundrums and an intriguing story. Many would argue that Portal 2 is a timeless masterpiece, and it's incredibly easy to see why. We had to wait quite some time for Mass Effect to make its way to PlayStation, but it was well worth it in the end. EA first brought Mass Effect 2 to PlayStation 3 in 2011. Arguably Commander Shepard's finest outing, its almost episodic structure makes for an expertly paced sci-fi adventure. Beloved characters are at the forefront of this intergalactic epic, your relationships always put to the test during the game's all-important suicide mission. For all these reasons and more, it's definitely one of BioWare's absolute best. Uncharted 2 single-handedly defined the PS3 era back in 2009, when Sony's pricey console was struggling to resonate with a wider audience. Naughty Dog's stunning action-adventure kick-started PlayStation's ongoing obsession with blockbuster exclusives, and it's still a game that wows with its awesome set-pieces. Who can forget the helicopter chase through those collapsing buildings, or even the moving train scramble? It was a technical marvel at the time, and Uncharted 2 is a landmark moment for modern PlayStation. As if you thought it would be anything else, Naughty Dog had already pushed the PlayStation 3 to its supposed limits with Uncharted 3, but the industry-leading developer wasn't finished. The Last of Us destroyed all expectations, a console swan song that ended up becoming one of the most critically acclaimed games of the last 3 decades. A mastercraft in character development, encounter design, and world building, The Last of Us still stands as an utterly engrossing post-apocalyptic adventure. And there you have it for our list, or should that be your list, of the 15 best PlayStation 3 games ever. Be sure to let us know in the comments below if you agree with the ranking, again voted for by you, as well as what PS3 gem you think should have probably made it. Infamous 2, anyone? My boy Cole was done dirty here, how could you? Following that, be sure to leave this video a like if you enjoyed it, and consider subscribing to Push Square for all things PlayStation related. Until then, thank you so much as ever for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.